Members of the court, my name is Richard Settle. I'm with Armbrust and Brown, and I represent the group that is bringing Formula One and the United States Grand Prix to Austin. How did we get Formula One and the Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix here in Austin, and have it fly so far under the radar that most of us, all we knew about it was what we were reading in the newspapers? Well, Tavo Hellman, he landed the contract with Formula One after a fierce competition with other places in our country. He did that mostly by hard work, mostly by stealth, mostly by outplaying the other guys, and then some of it was he has a 40-year relationship with a man named Bernie Ecclestone, who's the head of Formula One worldwide. He's been working on bringing the Grand Prix and Formula One to Austin for several years, and he managed to secure it without the benefit of large financial backing that some of the competitors have. Charles Brigance is our local engineer. Obviously, we need someone to interface with, and he'll be helping process through both the city and the county on the various permits that we're going to need. And we're in the process of studying the traffic infrastructure needs, and we've sought input from the state, as well as we're in the process of talking to local traffic engineers and the traffic planners that were responsible for coming up with the traffic plan in Silverstone, England for their Grand Prix. And we think we can make it work with some traffic management and possibly some traffic improvements.
Who would pay for the traffic improvements?
Well, I think we would. There'll probably be some widening of roads and some various things, and we're still studying those to see, because obviously it does us no good to have an event that you can't get to. Contrary to one of the local news outlets, we don't have a Longhorn pipeline problem out here. The Longhorn pipeline is not on this site. We do have pipelines. We have two that right now would intersect the track, not the spectator facilities, and we've been talking to the pipeline companies about our various options to fix that. And they range from doing nothing to lowering them to routing them around the track completely. We have a 20-inch natural gas line and a 3-inch liquid product line, which I'm not sure what that is, but it's that's the 3-inch is the easiest one to move. The 20-inch is the one we're looking at various options of either lowering it, leaving it alone, or rerouting it around the track. We intend to meet or exceed all the drainage and water quality requirements of the various jurisdictions. We've actually, like I mentioned before, we have submitted grading plans both to the county and the city for review. That's the first step. Then as we get those reviewed, we'll be turning in the actual site plans for the improvements. In the end, our goal is to have a world-class facility out there that includes a business park, opportunities for film, opportunities for research and development.
Okay. One of our big concerns, of course, is transportation. County staff did a preliminary traffic evaluation indicating that the current roadway network surrounding it, considering FM 812 isn't on the Campo plan for expansion, it's on Elroy Road, 2-lane road. We had many transportation concerns with the original subdivision plat for this piece of property, when that was going to be rooftops on an average and sustained traffic pattern in and out. In our preliminary rough guessing that there could be delays of upwards of 12 hours to accommodate transporting the numbers of participants and spectators in and out of the facility. So what are those planning efforts underway? When can we see the results of them? When will we start having conversations at the county level?
I can't give you an exact time because the engineers, we're still, picking our team and getting the best and brightest to look at this. I would anticipate that within, it's hard to guess, but obviously within months, we're going to have an initial idea. I've not heard the 12-hour delay factor. I can tell you.
Of course, we were going on very rough numbers because this is from my understanding, this is the very first time that we have gotten a conversation with you all and this project at all. And so we were kind of working in the dark.
I understand, and yes. Imagine, we have the University of Texas, their ball games, through traffic management we're able to move people in and out of there, and we intend to do that similar kind of study and that similar kind of traffic management for a large event. And we're going to put the best and brightest on that to figure out what it's going to take, because obviously if somebody flies over here from Europe and they sit in their car for 12 hours, they're liable not to come back the following year, and we're well aware of that, and we know that we're going to have to get that fixed. So
And what I'm really after is a robust cost-benefits analysis with an honest conversation about who bears the costs and who will enjoy the benefits.
Sure.
Which I don't believe we've had the opportunity to have at all. I mean, we've had no conversation whatsoever, much less this honest conversation about who bears costs and who receives benefit. So with regard to that, I heard you say that your clients are anticipating paying for the design and the construction of the necessary roadway improvements.
well, and that is a broad statement. We may disagree on what's required, but obviously, we're going to do our part to make sure that it works. If the wish list comes back that we need to build another highway or this, that, and the other, what I call the gives and gets balance starts getting out of whack, and then we'll have to have the discussion of if something's needed, and who bears that cost may depend on who actually thinks it's needed to make the event a success.
I absolutely agree that conversation needs to happen
It
and
will.
probably should have started before now,
Well,
considering
we want to
all
we want to
immediate
get our
attention.
good information so that we're not operating without it.
Can I just, along those lines, interject one other question to expand? Since this is the first time we've heard about it, and we're talking about traffic and cost benefits analysis and how are those things going to weigh out between the players, and you've already turned in a grading plan to the county, and we know you're trying to fast track it, when are these things going to happen?
Well, as you can imagine, we're working as fast as we can, and I've said it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant. We're confident that it's going to work out. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's going to work. So I'll freely admit to you that this thing is going along in an unconventional path, but internally there's a lot of money being spent from the private side, knowing that it's going to work and knowing that we will do whatever it takes to make it work.
That's thrilling. I so appreciate that. And I'd like to know what the plans and the schedule are for acquiring the right-of-way necessary for the transportation infrastructure to support it.
Well, right now, we haven't identified any right-of-way that needs to happen immediately. We think that there's, for the roads that we've looked at just preliminarily, there's probably existing right-of-way that with the addition of a lane and traffic management, we can make it work.
Do you have an overall traffic management plan that you can share with us at this point?
I do not.
What plans, has there been any traffic impact analysis done at this point?
No formal one, no, ma'am.
Okay. And I understand from the various articles I've read in the paper, because that's been my only source up to now, that there will be an asphalt mixing facility on site because of the necessity to have a continuous pour for the track.
Well, that was one of the items that was news to me as well.
Oh,
The German engineers have been here. They visited the asphalt plants that we already have, and they're confident that they can bring in the facilities from the existing plants and not have to do one out here.
and of course, the county has no authority to regulate sound levels in the unincorporated areas of the county. Do we know what decibel levels will be generated by the use?
We do, and it's loud. And the engineers are currently working on ways to mitigate that for the surrounding landowners.
The third category after transportation and environmental that I have concerns about is with regard to safety. And I imagine that this is going to be quite a coordinated effort among many, many different governmental entities as well as private entities. Of the governmental entities, just to name a few, TxDOT, City of Austin, Travis County, DPS, TCSO, APD, if we have to do contra lanes, Department of Homeland Security, FAA, if there's any impact on the airport or on helicopter usage. Has this coordinated effort begun?
It is not. We're doing an inventory of those. This is literally the first public presentation that this project has had. There's, other than the neighborhood meetings of introduction, this is the first briefing to a public entity that there's been.
And of course, one concern that we do have, since there is a large number of people going in and out, there are pipelines. And I personally have not had the opportunity to research it, but I imagine that there are some considerations with regard to evacuation. Since the transportation, I'm going out on a limb here perhaps, but it doesn't look to me that the transportation infrastructure is currently adequate for the usage, much less adequate for an evacuation if that becomes necessary. Is that figuring into your plans?
It is, and we're figuring on between the security and we think that there is adequate infrastructure to get people in and out. We think it'll be a safe facility.
Now, you had mentioned economic development impacts of this project, and that, of course, is of high interest to all of us. Has there been any objective research with regard to this facility and this area in terms of its likely economic impact?
No formal research, but our research by experience has been, since this track was announced and this facility was announced, a funny story. It kind of got announced before we were ready for it to be announced. And we were not ready, and between the chamber and some of the various offices in the city, within an hour there were over 18,000 inquiries as to everything from business opportunities to hotel rooms for 2012. So our what would be our intuitive research tells us that there's a lot of interest, and if 10% of that interest came to fruition, it's a big economic impact.
I would like to have the opportunity to see whatever objective analysis is done, because you know me, just the anecdotal.
Commissioner, I thought if we stayed out of the reserve, you'd be okay.
But just any kind of hard number analysis
Sure.
of how Formula One racing has impacted like communities. The Indianapolis experience, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are other communities internationally that are also looking at or have placed these tracks in recent years, and to see what their actual experience of spin-off businesses and that kind of thing and jobs created would be very instructive, I think.
A groundbreaking is supposed to take place, according to the newspaper, I think in December of this year. Is that correct?
Our engineers tell us in order to make a 2012 race that we need to be moving dirt by December of this year.
December.
Now that doesn't mean that we have.
Well,
Sorry.
And I guess, Richard, it's a lot of still unanswered questions, and it would be really. And I was at a function just the other day, Friday, I think it was, and folks were asking me about the Formula One thing, and I said, well, I don't know anything about it except for what I read out of the newspaper. And of course, this is the first exposure I've had to a lot of things. And I guess my concern is that if we're going to have groundbreaking, of course, the Travis County has to also issue permits in this process. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
And the questions that we're receiving, any way possible that we can expedite as much information, funnel it through our staff, through the Commissioners Court or however, on this particular project, especially on specifics, because we're getting specific questions. I mean, specifics, and of course, we don't have the answers. And if we're going to have groundbreaking, it just appears that we ought to have some answers by then.
Sure. And we're working as hard as we can on those answers. The expediting process that we viewed was by doing this in a sequenced manner. We're expediting the grading plan, for instance, now, and that's in review, so that there are things that are specific to grading, and then we'll bring in specifics as to the site development and all. So at any point, there's going to be safety valves at various points. The other way to do it is just turn in a stack this thick and throw it over to Joe and say, here, have at it. And we thought that possibly the incremental approach of reviewing this would be an expedited and a better way to do it.
And I think we ought to get you in writing whatever we have that we think may require comments with substance rather than a yes or no.
Office, we can come down. We have other displays that we can show you. We'll be happy to provide your offices with that information.
Okay.
Thank you very much for having us. And
Thank
we
you.
look forward to working with you.
Recess to 1:45.